Brooklyn Beckham didn't just walk away from his family, he walked straight into a very different world. A world of billionaire money, ultra-private resorts, 5-figure bottles of wine, and a lifestyle that quietly dwarfs even the Beckham empire. And at the centre of it all is Nicola Peltz. Because while the public has been focused on emotional statements, wedding drama and family silence, the real tension underneath this feud appears to be something far more uncomfortable: power, wealth and control. And who really holds it now? Nicola Peltz comes from a family that operates on an entirely different financial level. Her father, Nelson Peltz, is a billionaire investor whose fortune stretches into the billions, built through decades of corporate takeovers and high-level boardroom influence. This isn't celebrity wealth. This is old-school, private jet, decision-maker money. And since marrying Nicola, Brooklyn has been living squarely inside that universe. Over the past weeks, reports about Nicola's finances have exploded across the internet, centering on claims that she receives a $1 million monthly allowance from her father. While people close to the Peltz family have pushed back on the exact figure, what isn't disputed is this: Nicola has access to extraordinary wealth, independence and resources that most people, including many celebrities, never touch. And the lifestyle reflects it. Brooklyn and Nicola were recently photographed staying at one of California's most exclusive luxury hotels, a secluded celebrity favourite hideaway known for hosting royalty, Hollywood elites and political power players. During that stay, Brooklyn shared photos that immediately set social media on fire. On the table, an ultra-rare bottle of wine, valued at tens of thousands of dollars, considered one of the most expensive wines ever produced. This wasn't subtle flexing, this was a message. The couple looked relaxed, affectionate and completely unbothered, drinking rare wine, walking manicured grounds, posting curated images of calm and luxury. While Brooklyn's parents were thousands of miles away, presenting a united front of their own. That contrast matters, because the Beckham family built their fortune differently. David and Victoria Beckham are worth hundreds of millions, but their wealth comes from relentless work, branding, endorsements, and global image control. Their empire is polished, public, and tightly managed. The Peltz fortune, by comparison, is quieter, deeper, and far less dependent on public approval. This difference is crucial to understanding why this feud feels so explosive. For years, David and Victoria Beckham have been known for one core belief when it comes to their children: independence must be earned. Brooklyn was supported, but not endlessly funded. The expectation was always that he would eventually stand on his own, find his path, and build something separate from the Beckham name. Nicola's world doesn't operate that way. In the Peltz family, generational wealth is designed to protect, cushion, and empower. Nicola grew up surrounded by private jets, mega yachts, designer wardrobes, and 5-star vacations, not as rewards, but as a baseline. Since marrying her, Brooklyn's daily reality has shifted dramatically. They now live in a multi-million-dollar mansion in Beverly Hills. They vacation on super yachts. They travel between elite destinations without concern for cost. Nicola regularly wears handbags worth more than most cars. Their lifestyle is not aspirational. It's insulated. And this is where the tension reportedly deepens. Behind the scenes, there are claims that Victoria Beckham is sitting on text messages that could expose what she believes is the real Nicola. Messages tied to the wedding fallout, the infamous dress situation, and the growing distance between Brooklyn and his family. According to people close to the situation, Victoria hasn't released anything, not because she can't, but because she still hopes her son will come back. That detail matters. Because while Brooklyn has gone public with his grievances, David and Victoria have remained almost completely silent. No interviews, no statements, no social media rebuttals, and that silence doesn't signal surrender. It signals restraint. At the same time, sources close to the Beckhams say something else is happening privately. A desire to bring Brooklyn home, but not at any cost. Behind closed doors, David and Victoria are said to be heartbroken, confused, and deeply concerned about how fast their son's world has changed. They reportedly believe reconciliation is possible, but only if Nicola is no longer part of the equation, and that is where everything breaks. Brooklyn has made it clear that he sees Nicola as his protector, his support system, and the person who gave him peace after years of anxiety. In his own words, stepping away from his family brought relief. From his perspective, Nicola isn't controlling him. She's freeing him. From the Beckhams' perspective, however, the situation looks very different. Their son is now financially untouchable, emotionally entrenched, and surrounded by a family whose wealth eclipses their own. The balance of power has shifted, and not in their favour. Meanwhile, Brooklyn and Nicola continue to project calm defiance. Sun-drenched photos, love songs, public affection, luxury backdrops. Every post reinforces the same narrative. They're thriving, and they don't need the Beckhams to do it. But the question hanging over all of this remains unanswered. Is this really about love and independence, or is Brooklyn slowly disappearing into a world where money makes reconciliation unnecessary? And if the Beckhams truly believe Nicola is the driving force behind the rupture, how long can Victoria keep those messages private before the situation explodes even further? What makes this situation even more volatile is how money quietly changes leverage. Brooklyn Beckham is no longer the son who needs to negotiate, compromise, or appease. He is married into a family where financial security is guaranteed for life. That reality reshapes every emotional conversation behind the scenes. When reports about Nicola's alleged $1 million monthly allowance surfaced, the reaction wasn't just public shock. It reportedly sent ripples through both families. Even though people close to the Peltz camp have questioned the exact figure, the symbolism of it mattered far more than the number itself. The message was clear. Nicola does not rely on Brooklyn, and Brooklyn does not rely on the Beckhams anymore. That flips the traditional dynamic completely. For decades, David and Victoria Beckham have been the gravitational centre of their family, financially, culturally, and emotionally. Their children grew up inside a global brand where access, privilege, and opportunity flowed through them. Now, Brooklyn exists outside that structure, backed by a fortune that predates fame and doesn't require public approval. And this is where sources suggest the real fracture lies. Because while Brooklyn frames his decision as emotional liberation, those close to the Beckhams allegedly view it as something else entirely, detachment fueled by insulation. When consequences disappear, reconciliation becomes optional. When lifestyle doesn't change, bridges don't need to be rebuilt. The recent images of Brooklyn and Nicola drinking ultra-rare wine inside a secluded luxury resort only reinforce that perception. At a moment when the Beckham family was presenting unity in Paris, attending major cultural ceremonies, standing shoulder to shoulder, Brooklyn and Nicola were doing the opposite. Not hiding, not retreating, but deliberately showing how untouched they were by the fallout. Every image felt curated. Every caption felt intentional. Every song choice whispered the same message. We're fine. And that's where Victoria Beckham's silence becomes even more interesting. According to people familiar with the situation, Victoria believes she knows exactly when things shifted and who was behind it. She reportedly suspects that Nicola played a central role in encouraging Brooklyn to go public, to cut ties, and to frame the narrative before anyone else could. The texts she's said to be holding allegedly paint a very different picture than the calm, curated persona seen online, but she hasn't released them, not yet. And that restraint speaks volumes, because despite everything, the accusations, the public statements, the humiliation, David and Victoria are still operating as parents first. They reportedly believe that once certain lines are crossed publicly, there's no undoing the damage. Releasing those messages could permanently sever any path back. At the same time, their position hasn't softened on one critical point. Behind closed doors, insiders say the Beckhams would welcome Brooklyn back immediately, but not with Nicola by his side. They allegedly believe that as long as Nicola remains central in his life, reconciliation is impossible. That condition alone reveals just how deep the mistrust has grown. Brooklyn, however, has made his stance unmistakably clear. He has chosen Nicola. Emotionally, publicly, and increasingly professionally, there are now whispers that Brooklyn has been approached about telling his story in a much bigger way. Conversations about a potential book deal, one that could explore his upbringing, his anxiety, and his decision to step away from the Beckham brand, are said to be circulating quietly. If that happens, the fallout would move from gossip into permanent record, and that possibility terrifies the Beckhams because a book isn't just event, it's a weapon. It freezes one version of events forever and forces everyone else to respond from defence. At the same time, Brooklyn's career trajectory continues to raise eyebrows. Over the years, he's tried photography, cooking, publishing, brand partnerships, all under the Beckham name. Since marrying Nicola, that identity has shifted. He's no longer chasing independence inside his parents' framework. He's existing comfortably inside his wife's world. That distinction matters more than people realise. In the Beckham household, success is built, refined and earned under scrutiny. In the Peltz universe, success is protected, funded and insulated from failure. There's no urgency, no pressure, no need to prove anything. And that contrast may explain why David and Victoria feel like they're losing their son, not to rebellion, but to comfort. Meanwhile, Nicola's lavish lifestyle continues to speak louder than any statement. Designer wardrobes, private travel, multi-million-dollar real estate, ultra-exclusive vacations. Even when reports push back on specific figures, the optics remain undeniable. This is not a couple tightening belts or retreating from excess. This is a couple leaning into it and leaning away from the Beckhams. What makes this feud so compelling isn't the drama, it's the imbalance. Two powerful families, two completely different philosophies, one son caught in between, now firmly planted on one side. David and Victoria still believe time is on their side, that eventually the noise will quiet, that Brooklyn will miss his siblings, that distance will soften anger. But with every sun-soaked photo, every luxury getaway, every declaration of peace, that hope becomes harder to justify because reconciliation usually requires discomfort. And right now, Brooklyn Beckham appears very comfortable. The question no one can answer yet is whether this calm is permanent or just the quiet before an even bigger reckoning. Because as long as Victoria Beckham holds those messages and as long as Brooklyn continues to define his freedom through distance, this story is far from over. And when it does explode again, it won't be about weddings or dances. It will be about power, control, and who ultimately lost their son to a world they can't compete with.